You're listening to The Good Morning Show with Oliver O.T. Thomas.
We're back. Welcome back to The Good Morning Show. Oliver O.T. Oliver Thomas and the Early Bird. The Good Morning Show right here, 12:30 a.m. If you're on Facebook Live at Oliver Thomas, Instagram, Keys to New Orleans, Enough Said on Twitter. Man, we want to thank all of our guests. Look, it's Friday the 13th, right? But this is your lucky day. Yeah, hey, this is the luckiest day I ever had. Why? Because this is the day I'm in.
There you
right,
go.
and I'm claiming it. So I might be superstitious, but I ain't superstitious, guys. So let's make this day the best day you ever had. And then tomorrow, guess what you do? You make that one better than the one before. And keep doing it, man, every day. And know that you're making a difference, man, just by your attitude, just by your outlook in life. And we want to thank all of our guests, Gary Bowyer, Warren Miller, Donovan Hobby, a young attorney, and Mr. Lloyd Lightfoot, man. Our conversation on the miseducation about the Second Amendment and gun rights and what they call firearms. We're going to continue that conversation, man, and I think it's an important conversation for us to have. And also Ms. Gloria Moultrie, Chief Administrative Officer, one of our great education administrators in higher education, Suno celebrating his 60th anniversary. And we want and also thank Mayor Cantrell and Director Sine Villavaso of the Office of Workforce Development. Job One Career and Resource Fair, not just providing jobs for opportunity, but working with resource partners and working with the New Orleans business community to make sure that people have careers. And I told y'all they were coming to here. Morgan Stewart, Vice President of Marketing and Communication for the New Orleans Business Alliance, been contributing with WBOK and outreach and educating our community for quite some time. And Mr. Reid Wick, the Senior Membership Project Manager of the GRAMMYs. Guys, welcome. Guys, first of all, Morgan, welcome back to the Good Morning Show.
Thank you.
Reid, welcome to the Good Morning Show, man.
Thanks, O.T. Thanks for having me.
Reid and I were just talking about one of the great human beings of all time, man, mutual friend, the late Harold Baquet, one of our great photographers, artists, just all around good people.
No better human being on the planet.
Ain't no doubt. Man, always back with all, no matter what happened, raining outside, in the middle of some kind, always smiling and always uplifting, man.
I love him and miss him every day.
And he's up there photographing heaven right now. But let's talk about, when you talk about artists, right? Musicians, Hollywood soundtracks, teaching musicians the next steps to increasing earnings. When you talk to musicians, you'd be surprised at how many of them, man, they do their craft, they're great at it, don't know nothing about making money.
It's the history of music.
Right.
When you think about it, all the great stars we all grew up
right
with.
here in New Orleans.
In New Orleans, everywhere, right?
Bro.
So it's the history of music. So we, at the New Orleans Business Alliance, we try to do, of course, we do the strategic stuff. We're partnering the Greater New Orleans Inc. to study the industry and how do we make it better in New Orleans? How do we create a really bigger, better industry?
And let's talk about how we
we
do that, especially with workshops like this.
Right. So they're on the strategy side. They're doing a big study. We're partnering them with that, and we'll get the results of that in several months, I think. But on the tactical side, this is where we sit down and we figured out a way with guys like Reid Wick helping us out, helping us figure it out, that we could sit down with musicians themselves and say, okay, where's the gap? Where can we help them learn how to earn more money? Because a lot of you're making beautiful music, you're an artist, you're not necessarily into the business, you're out there getting gigs, you're making some money there.
You're working.
Right, you're working. And then somebody walks in and says, hey, man, your music's great. I'm with NCIS New Orleans. We'd love to put it on the show. And what does that mean? That means a check. That means mailbox money. So
that means
every time
royalties
royalties,
forever.
exactly.
I tell people, I love getting those Treme checks. I get them for life.
That's awesome.
Right.
But if you don't know how to register your music, how to copyright
Right.
it, if you're just out there gigging and the guy says, "Hey, I want you to put you on the show,"
Bam. One and
I'm
done.
not registered. I can't do it.
Right.
You're losing out on money.
And Reid, why is that important, man? And how simple is it, especially if you understand, you know your rights, and you're willing to take advantage of workshops like this?
Well, I mean, the biggest issue for so many musicians, and it's not only here in New Orleans, it's everywhere, but it's really a big issue here in New Orleans. I mean, we've always been a live music town, and music has been central to New Orleans from day one, 300 years plus, right? but it's almost taken for granted in a sense because we're born to it, we're buried to it,
and
we're
love
married
to do
to
it.
We love to do it. But, treating it as an industry like this is...
As a business.
As a business to where you can think of yourself as an entrepreneur if you're a musician. And as an entrepreneur, you got to explore all the possible income streams. And what I kind of refer to as the Friday night gig mentality, so many of our musicians are only focused on that Friday night gig where they're going to make $100, right?
Right.
But if they really focus their energies on, I make this great music, how can I get it into commerce in other ways? Because the real money in the music industry is what's referred to as music publishing, which can be segmented into several aspects. But music sync licensing, which is getting your music into a TV show or a movie or a commercial, that's where the biggest money is these days. And so, with the help of
Terrence Blanchard, right?
I mean, Terrence has been doing it for years, Right. I mean, he's got the little shack on Park Island, probably more so from making music for movies than for being the Grammy-winning jazz artist.
Absolutely.
And this is our third event, and what we try to do at each one is have some of the stars that we all know and love. And our first event, we had Big Frida, and she's up there talking about the money she lost because she didn't copyright.
Right.
So she does great stuff that we all fell in love with and helped make her the star she is. And she had to, unfortunately, learn the lesson the hard way. And so she's up there imparting her knowledge to the musicians. I mean, we had musicians and songwriters. I think we had about a 12-year-old there dressed up, ready to go, and then folks in their 60s and 70s, and she's imparting her knowledge. And we're partnering with the Ella Project, which provides free legal services to musicians. And in this particular case, we are going to subsidize, the New Orleans Business Alliance is going to subsidize up to 50 musicians to get their music copyrighted and their catalogs copyrighted. They got to come to the event, they got to sign up, they got to go through the process. But that's the kind of stuff that I grew up, like you said, I grew up here, I grew up with the music, never heard of the Ella Project because I'm not a musician, but the truth is that we all we got to learn these things.
I had Master P on the show, and he talked about reading and hearing about the struggles of others and how so many people would be in the game, in the music game, and be broke. They did it because of the love of it. And because I was asking him about the reason why he turned down $1 million, right? And he actually gave them the check back, and he wound up making a whole lot more. But it was because of the stories of musicians and people in the New Orleans music industry, folk he knew who were good at what they did the best, but they never had any money, Reid.
Well, I mean, I can give you some examples, too many examples, but, I grew up with Ron and Don Bartholomew. I played with those guys in the Funk Nine way back when we were kids, right?
Talents, right?
And Mr. Dave, rest in peace.
One of the best ever did it.
Yeah, he came in and told us stories of writing songs like Ain't That a Shame where, in their mind, you can write a song like that every day, right? You don't know what's going to be a hit. Right. And so when like EMI Music Publishing comes along and says, we'll give, I don't know the exact numbers, but like,
I'll give you $5.
Yeah, I'll give you $10,000 for that song. For a lot of people, that's like, whoa.
Ain't That a Shame is a international forever classic.
Well, how did they know when he took the money that it was going to earn
Movie
millions
scores,
and millions of dollars in the lifetime of the song, you know? And then you kind of flip the coin on that and you think of Mr. Toussaint, who, rest in peace, who actually held on to a lot of those copyrights.
The game, right.
And
some people was mad at him for holding on to their copyrights.
Right.
But,
he's a businessman.
So, it's a balance. It's a balance of, how much do I give away, how much do I keep? Because, if you just hold on to everything on your own, you might not have an opportunity to put it into commerce.
And I think the beauty of workshops like this and the partnership with the Greater New Orleans Business Alliance and great musicians and artists like you, Reid, is that you guys are helping make it easy and more accessible so that those kinds of stories don't happen.
Exactly. And you mentioned Treme, one of our guest speakers at this event next Wednesday night, and we should say when it is, right?
Right, exactly.
It's Wednesday night, September 18th.
5:30
to 7 p.m. over at the Jazz and Heritage Center, and Sync Up, the project of the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, is also a partner on this. They're hosting this over at the George and Joyce Ween Jazz and Heritage Center.
That's at 1225 North Rampart Street.
Exactly.
And admission is free.
It's free admission.
Free is better than cheap, listening.
What we want you to do is go to the website, either the Jazz and Heritage Foundation or the New Orleans Business Alliance, NOLABA.org, and register so we know how many people are coming. But
go ahead, Reid.
We're not going to turn anyone away.
So what I was going to say is, our keynote speaker, if you will, or keynote interview will be with John Boutte. And John's a prime example of somebody who, had it all together. He
John,
had
Lil,
had the copyright, you know, for the song. He had the master use, the master license, or the rights to the master recording. And he was able to, and then luckily, Blake Leahy from HBO took the time to really find the real music of New Orleans for the TV show and hunted down John. And, you know, I won't say the numbers, but John's sitting pretty now
John's
on the
doing
North
pretty
Shore.
good. John's got him 12 acres on the North Shore right now. We only see him when he performing.
Exactly. I had lunch
Jazz
with him.
Fest time.
I had lunch with him a month ago, and he was telling me how lovely life is up in Lacombe.
So,
well, I'll throw some numbers out for you.
Yeah,
so,
go ahead.
So your music is played in the background of a show, say in a jukebox. You can make $2,000 every time it's played.
Right.
If you've got a more popular song that's on TV, that can be anywhere between $3,000 and $25,000. We've got stories of backup musicians, session players, who do a piece on a commercial, like a Ford commercial. That's this recent story I heard recently, and that played so much, $60,000 in the mail. Just played once. Right. It's on so there's real money to be made there, and that's a great way to really grow our industry and help our musicians and artists.
And then what I learned being SAG, right, especially being in the film industry, is that every time they show it, every time you say it, every time you sing it, every time they play it,
it's residuals.
They are residuals, and then
mail.
And that's what a lot of the older artists. I mean, that's what they fought for, man. That's what many of them got cheated out of.
They did. And, you know, luckily with Treme, as an example, Blake was very patient and through Ella, but through Sweet Home New Orleans, which is now a defunct nonprofit that we were part of. Ashley Keaton from Ella actually was hired by Sweet Home through a grant from the Ford Foundation. We spent 2 years cleaning up copyright of some of those old timers so that they could get that money. And I can tell you, as a recovering record label owner and who had 27 records in our catalog, I mean, we sold a few songs to Treme, and they each brought in $10,000 a piece.
Now, Reid, also, if our folk who are listening, man, that's this Wednesday, September the 18th, 5:30 to 7 at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation office on 1225 North Rampart, in coordination with the Sync Up Workshop, Make Your Music, the Next Hollywood Soundtrack. New Orleans music and culture is hot. I'm hearing it every time there's a special, a movie, a series, all over the world.
It's all over the world. And, you know, it's probably more prevalent than you think because, you know, I can think of a number of examples. Like I just heard a commercial the other day that had some of the revivalist music in it. You know, for a while that Canon camera commercial with Ashton Kutcher on it had Trombone Shorty's music.
Correct.
You know, and in some cases, those artists may have made just as much money from getting that placement as they would for touring for a whole year. You know, so you really, you know, when I talk to artists, which I do all the time, you really have to explore all these different income streams. And that's the beauty of this kind of workshop and the series that, you know, has been happening here is that we're kind of giving you all these step-by-step instructions of how to take care of it.
The partnership with the New Orleans Business Alliance, man, is just a natural one. Some of our creative geniuses like Reid, and then the Business Alliance, that's what you guys do. Right. You focus on how you make your craft, how you make your business.
That's what we call economic development reimagined. You know, we've got to go beyond just going out looking for businesses to move here. We have businesses here. We
part of the incubator.
Right, exactly. We're a great city for small business and entrepreneurs, and we've got to grow those entrepreneurs and their ability to get all the funding and break down barriers and become the next Microsoft, become the next Dell. And our musicians are the same thing.
And Morgan, I want you to talk about that because when you think about business, a lot of times we didn't think about culture. We didn't think about music.
Right.
We didn't think about those things that are uniquely New Orleans. And you and Quentin and you guys team, you're saying, hey, hold on a second, right?
Yeah.
You know, our culture ain't just about tourism.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
It's not just about hotels and beds and restaurants. There's a whole nother billion-dollar industry.
Absolutely. Well, we're talking music. We've got small businesses, entrepreneurs, who are going to make the next big multi-billion-dollar company. And so we've got to feed those guys. We've got to make sure they're getting access to all the capital, all the training, everything they can really use to earn some money and grow their businesses. So, you know, we've got the programs. We've putting out tools. We've got Invest NOLA, which is a partnership with JP Morgan Chase for entrepreneurs of color. because let's be real, we've got a huge city, we've got a lot of talented folks who are entrepreneurs of color, and they do face real barriers. They face barriers to capital, they face barriers to education, business education, and so if we can break those down, we're going to be turning $1 million companies to $10 million companies and then beyond. And so that's really how we're going to grow this city to where it once was a long time ago, but where it really needs to be and should be, because we're an amazing city with amazing people here. And the culture part of it is really great, because it's not only just who we are as a city, but our culture is unique. Our culture is
the most unique culture in America.
Absolutely. And it's desired by everybody.
Like my little cousin would say, we be different.
That's right. People want to visit here, but they kind of forget that we have a great business climate. And so if we can get them to really realize we're building rockets to Mars here. We're building huge wind panels, and that's all in New Orleans East, by the way. We're doing amazing things in the city. We've got a technology hub here in downtown, and so there's the things that are growing here. This city is really, really looking good. I mean, we're on the upswing.
And talking about looking good, Reid, I'm seeing an effort, and I'm seeing an investment to bring more younger folk into that New Orleans music and cultural class, and I'm seeing that some intentionality there, especially on with a lot of people who are already in the industry, who already know how important it is.
Yeah, it was alluded to by Morgan a little while ago, but one of my sort of pet peeves, or whatever you want to call it, over the years, especially having been part of the team at Loyola University that started the music industry program in the mid-'90s, is that we've never looked at ourselves as an industry. We've never had the seat at the table with oil and gas, or even food, part of the culture. And part of it is lack of organization.
That's right.
As a music professional for all these years, one of the things we've been told by government, by business leaders, by bankers is that, well, y'all aren't organized as music. The food, pardon the pun, has the Louisiana Restaurant Association, which represents the entire food chain of that. We're missing pieces of the food chain in the music industry, and one of the efforts of, what NOLA BA is doing, and G&O Inc., and a number of other organizations is this KNOWN project, and it's the New Orleans Music Economy Initiative. And what Morgan alluded to earlier is there's this year-long study that's underway. We're about halfway through. It's happening behind the scenes because that's where it needs to be right now. But we just had our 6-month checkup 2 weeks ago, and it's already looking, one of the aspects of it is going to be sort of an asset mapping of what we do have here, and then a SWOT analysis or gap analysis of what's really missing. And us in the industry kind of know anecdotally, but it's going to be great to have a document that we can all buy into. And that's going to give us things like, what's the true economic impact on the economy of New Orleans? And we already know it's going to be like $1 billion a year.
And Reid, I want to ask you this. Finally, I have so many musicians in my family, and Walter Harris, Preservation Hall. Walter's my cousin, right? Yeah. I'm going to share a story that he shared with me. But are you guys finally getting noticed and getting your due? Where we're not just taking musicians and the artists and the culture for granted, especially the musical culture for granted in this town? Well,
I think it's a part of an overarching shift. Like, I think even the musicians have taken it for granted for so long that now in the last 10 years, and it really post-Katrina, I think we've seen a shift that our music has value beyond the Friday night gig, right?
And I said that because Walter came on the show once about an initiative that's finally being addressed. People don't understand the economics of great musicians. They play all around the world, right? Then they come home, and he was talking about just the trials and tribulations for a musician to park and work in the quarter. He said, you got a gig where you got X amount of number, right? If you get a parking ticket or get towed, guess what? Yeah. You lose money. Why don't we have special parking? So we're part of the culture, right?
Yeah.
Why weren't special provisions made for it? Because it's $1 billion industry. People come here to hear us. They come here to see us. They come here to dance and play with us. And he said, folk have no idea just how in the negative we are just because of issues like parking.
Actually, Bill Sabo from the Business Alliance has been working with some of the parking lots to try and work out a deal.
A special parking pass.
Exactly. Right. So that's in the works.
Right.
I know it's in the works.
Right.
I don't know where it stands. Maybe, Morgan, you do.
I don't have an update for you, but it is on the radar.
It is something.
But what I'm saying is people are seeing the economics
of you guys.
It's
deeper issue than
just. It's a much deeper issue.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
But that just goes to show that there are so many issues in so many areas that affect it. Mm-hmm. And if we change the mindset that this is actually such a huge contributor to our economy that we should be finding ways to support this to make it easier, just across the board.
I'll just say, man, look, I got a packed house, man. The band is playing for folk. Then they made thousands of dollars. You know, I make $100, and then I go out, and the ticket plus to go get my vehicle is a few $100 that lost money.
Look, it's happened to me. I've gone to the pound to get my car out and realize, wait, I'm 150 in the hole for this gig.
but thank God right now, not only are you getting your due, but the partnership with the New Orleans Business Alliance about workshops like this, wow, changing the whole world, and especially looking at it as what it is, not just part of our culture, but part of the business landscape, the corporate landscape of New Orleans.
Yeah, there's two ways of looking at it, right? Because it is our people, it is our citizens. We want them to do well, and that's part of what we do as an economic development organization at the New Orleans Business Alliance. But also, our culture is attractive to the corporate America. The millennials want to live in a place. The largest workforce in America wants to live in a place that's interesting, and there's no more interesting place in New Orleans. Right. So the two work together. We can attract more people here. We can attract business here, but we can grow the businesses here as well.
Guys, thank you. Well, first of all, time to close out, but this event is Wednesday?
Wednesday at the Jazz and Heritage Foundation building. 22. Reid, do you have quick time to run through who's going to be there? Because it's a pretty powerful list.
Sure. So I mentioned John Boutte is going to be there. Also, artist and songwriter Erica Falls, who's amazing.
Oh, wow. We're talking about end of the season right now.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Right.
Dino Gankendorf, who's one of the leading entertainment attorneys in town. Sarah Bromberg, who's an independent music supervisor, so she can give you the scoop. And also we'll have filmmaker Michael Murphy, who has made many films about music culture and has done music at filmed the Jazz Fest for a long time and has had a lot of ups and downs he can talk about.
And some guy named Reid Wick from the Grammys.
And some guy named Reid Wick from the Grammys.
NOLABA.org, more information.
Absolutely.
Jazz and Heritage Foundation website, too.
And just make sure that, Wednesday, September the 18th from 5:30 to 7 at 1225 North Rampart, the Jazz and Heritage Foundation office. And free is better than cheap. But look, go online and register, guys. It may be free, but we'd like to know you're coming, right? Guys, y'all promise to come back in the future?
Absolutely.
Hey, OT and the Early Bird, man, I want to thank all of our guests, everybody who participates in informing our public, man. We love what we do, making us one of the fastest growing morning talk shows in the region. We appreciate all of the information and all of the access. And look, have a wonderful weekend. This may be Friday the 13th, but guess what? This is your lucky day. And like we say most mornings here, OT and the Early Bird, you may have an issue, you may have an obstacle, there may be something in your life that's not even your fault. But when you look in the mirror, if you're the only one dealing with it, don't wait on somebody else to come save you. Start working on it yourself. Have a good weekend.